Hello guys, Gaijin Hunter here and welcome to my ultimate tutorial series. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at the Charge Blade, one of the cool new exciting weapons in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. This weapon has both a blade and an axe, and it's kind of morphing between these two modes that make it a dynamic and exciting weapon. In Japan we actually call this weapon the Charge Axe, not the Charge Blade. And both modes are very viable, so in this video we're going to be covering not only the basic mechanics of each mode, but also how they link together, the charge mechanic, some more advanced topics like guard pointing, and I'll even cover some things like which armor skills go good with the weapon and general strategies for playing. So let's start out with the basic moves, because I really think that this is what leads to comprehension, and I think a lot of people when they pick up new weapons don't actually take the time to explore this. So the draw attack on the blade is just a nice run-in slash. If you've played Sword and Shield before, you'll recognize this move because it's identical to it. You can also do it by pressing X and A at the same time. This is just a good run-in attack to start a combo. Okay, now the idle X attack is just a nice downward slash. Nothing special to talk about here, just an attack. This is the first move in a 3-hit combo, which is a common theme that you'll see with a lot of weapons in Monster Hunter. If we hit X again, we get this fabulous upward strike. Now, I don't know if you can tell here, but the actual height of this thing is very high. You can actually hit monsters out of the air if you time it correctly and position yourself right. The next hit that finalizes the combo is the round slash. This is a nice strong attack. You also find with the Charge Blade that because you move forward with the attack, if you start attacking and the monster's moving around, you might actually hit the monster in the back feet using that round slash, which is actually really good because you can trip monsters and then do some mega axe attacks. Now, because this is a 3-hit combo, you can actually substitute the first hit of the combo. This is the normal one, 1, 2, and 3. But if we were to do the charge in attack, it would go immediately into the second move here, the upward slash. Same works that if you do this through a draw, of course. So if you draw, you can go straight into the upward attack and then into the charge slash. And if you evade an attack, the evade actually counts as attack 1 as well. So if you do that, you get this nice upward strike. So if you see a Rathalos or something about to take off into the air, run under it and quick hit under it, and you might actually knock it down out of the air. You never know. It's definitely worth a shot. Now your main bread and butter for the blade mode is going to be the charge attacks. If you hold down A and then release, you'll do this really powerful 2-strike attack. Not only is the attack itself very powerful, but it also charges your blade, which is something we'll get to in a little bit. Now, one of the cool things about the Charge Blade that people feel makes it more complex, but I think it makes it more versatile, is that you can do this charge attack after any move. So if you do the draw attack, go straight into it. You can do the X attack, the second one. I think the animators did a great job with the motion blending here. I mean, it just looks so natural. I think you get the idea. Now, one thing that you do want to be careful with the charge is if you just tap A and you hold it a little bit and not enough, you'll do a kind of uncharged attack, which you don't want to do. Which is that. It's just a single swipe up. Same thing is that if you overcharge. So if you hold down A and you overcharge, you just get a weak little slash upward. So make sure that you give it the full charge, bing, and then do it. So just look for that little light glare at the end, and you're all good to go. One thing that's worth noting, which you may have seen me doing, is that you can do the fabulous sidestep with the Charge Blade. Sidesteps are much better than regular evades, and you'll hear that a lot, and I think the reason is that it's good for repositioning. So if you're attacking a monster and they start to go to the left, you can then hop over to the left. If they're going to the right, you can hop over to the right, and so forth. You can do this after the regular axe attack, after the second attack, after the third attack, after a charging attack, heck, even after the charge like this. You can do a sidestep after every move. It's fabulous, and you should really take advantage of it because I think that it helps with positioning. And finally, there is one more move with the blade mode. Let's just do a recap really fast. We have the charging attack, which is also X and A. We have our basic X attack. We have our upward XX attack, which we can also do after an evade, or any other move for that matter. And then the end to our combo is the round slash, and holding A produces the charge attack. Now there's one final move that they added in 4 Ultimate that you won't see people doing in Monster Hunter 4 videos from Japan because we didn't have it, but it's called the shield thrust. So this is something that you have to do after another move. You can't do it while idle. But after any move, press X and A at the same time. And you'll do this little, like, ka-ching attack with your shield. Now you'll notice that there's almost like an empty shell flying out. And this is just a hint that once we have our shield in charge mode, which we'll cover later, there's actually an extra bonus that you get for doing this attack. And while it looks like only one attack, it's actually 2. So if you're really close to a monster and you do this, it'll actually do 2 hits, which makes it pretty powerful if you're using an elemental weapon, which the power of each attack doesn't really matter. What matters is how many times you hit the monster. So again, very cool move, and you can do it after anything. So you can do it after the charging attack, you can do it after any of the combo attacks, and you can even chain this together with the A charge attack. So you can go upwards, hold A to charge, another shield thrust, hold A to charge, and you can just do infinite combos with this weapon. There's absolutely no rule in which you have to go. And you can do the shield thrust after it as well. Now one final thing I want to mention about the blade mode, and this is kind of an advanced technique and you may not have to worry about it too much, are that there are 2 opportunities to actually tweak the position of your hunter, which I find pretty helpful. The first we'll cover is the round slash. So when you do the 3-hit combo, you'll notice that your hunter steps forward and does an attack. But if you hold, let's say, on the circle pad on the right, your hunter will do a small little position change to the right. It's very small, but you'd be surprised on how that can add up, especially if you start chaining shield thrust. Because when you do a shield thrust, it works the same way. This is straight forward, this is to the right, and this is a much more angled shot. You notice with only 2 of them, we're doing a 45-degree angle here. Now I'm facing like almost 45 degrees from where I originally started, so you can see how these things add up. You can almost do a full circle here. There we go. So it's a cool technique that I suggest that you play around with a little bit once you're more familiar with the weapon. And that covers blade mode. So to get to the axe mode, all you have to do when you're in blade mode is hold R and press X. This will do a morph attack, which is a nice downward slash. You can do the downward slash as well by holding forward and pressing X. So very nice. Another way that you can draw into axe mode is by holding R and pressing X and A at the same time. This is kind of a slightly faster version of that downward attack if you noticed. Like here's the regular one, and here comes the draw attack. So it's actually quite useful. Once you're in axe mode, there's a few different attacks I want to cover. The first one, which I just did, is forward and press X. That's just your standard slash. Idle X is just a standard upward slash. It's a little sluggish, but it does reach really high, so if there's a monster up above, it might be a way to knock him down. If you follow up with another X attack, you'll just do a standard chop. This is a little different than the blade mode, which has 3-hit combos. This is a 2-hit combo, so it's just something to remember. You can even chain some of these together, so if you hit the downward X, then X, and X again, and then it goes into the 2-hit combo. But the real meat and potatoes of the axe mode is the A button attacks. These are really special attacks that get extra damage from the Phials that you have charged up, which we'll cover in a minute, but I can still show you what they look like even though I don't have Phials charged up. So if you press A, it does a standard chop. If you press it again, you'll do a double swing. Then you press it one more time and you'll do the finisher. At the end of the finisher, you'll automatically morph all the way back into blade mode. You can't stop that from happening. If you press A after any other attack, you'll skip that first weak little thrust here, and you'll go straight into the very versatile double swing. So for example, after this, we press A, it does the double swing. If we do a jump attack and press A, it does the double swing. So it's something to remember. One of the more famous and I think popular combos when a monster is down is to hit X to do the upward, A, and then X again. Then A, and it keeps you in place and it does a lot of damage, so very popular. Also, you can get straight to the finisher just by pressing X and A. So you can tell, because they made it so easy to hit this finisher, that finisher move is actually really important for this weapon, I think. There's even one extra way to get to that finisher without even having to morph into axe at all, and that's after a shield thrust. So this was the shield thrust, if you remember. It's just X and A after an attack. If you press X and A one more time during the shield thrust, you'll go straight into the finisher for the axe. And finally, it's very easy to morph back into blade mode from axe. All you have to do is press the button R. Easy as that. So morph to axe is R plus X, and to morph back after any move is just R. And they really made a lot of work with the motion blending here that you can actually morph back to blade after absolutely any move. The exception being the finisher, of course, which automatically will bring you back to blade mode. So if you ever find yourself in trouble, running out of Phials, need to get back, all you gotta do is hit R. Now you can chain these things back and forth together, so you can morph, you can charge, you can shield thrust. The amount of combos you can do with this weapon are absolutely infinite, which is why I think a lot of people really like it. It's just a lot of freedom. So cool. So incredibly versatile. So now let's go in there and beat up on the Great Jaggy a little bit and see exactly what these Phials do for our axe mode. Now every attack that you do is going to charge your Phials, but you want to be using the charge attack, this one. It's going to charge them up probably 3 times faster. Now if you notice, my blade is now glowing yellow. That means I have enough energy stored up to charge it, and I will get 3 of my Phials charged. So to charge a Phial, just hold R and press A. And now we have 3 Phials charged. Now yellow isn't exactly where it stops. You can actually go all the way up to red. So let's keep attacking the Jaggy here. There you go. So with red, when you charge it, you're going to get all 5 Phials stocked up. So although you want to be charging up to red every time, because it does charge all 5, be careful though, because if you keep attacking, you go into an overcharged mode. I'll show you what that looks like here. So when you're overcharged, the word charge is shown, and every single attack you do is going to bounce off the monster, so you do not want this to happen. If it does happen though, just charge, and you'll be fine. So now let's cover those axe attacks that use these Phials. So as we said before, if you hit just the A button, it'll do the normal attack and get a Phial blast. And the second one does too. And finally, the third one, which we can do in the 3-hit combo or by pressing X and A together, will do 3 blasts. Now if you notice, we've already stunned the Great Jaggy because the stun damage on these Phials is incredibly high if you're using an impact Phial charge blade. And finally, there's another cool trick that you can get into that 3-hit combo one other way, which is to press A after you charge your energy into your shield. So let's go ahead and try that. So charge, press A, and you go straight into that 3-hit combo. Pretty cool. Okay, now there's another really big mechanic about this weapon, but before we cover that, I want to string those things that we just learned together, which is charging your charge blade, using the blade mode, morphing into the axe mode, and using those A button attacks, because understanding these is really critical into using this weapon well. So let's go see how these work in practice. This is another good time to note that you can do jump attacks with the charge blade just like you can with every other weapon. If you jump and press X, you'll do a blade attack. And here we resulted in a mount. This is going to give us a good opportunity to charge our blade up, and if we can charge up fast enough, I might just switch to the A button attacks straight from the charge. Yeah, so I'm going to do that. I'm just going to hit A, and I'm going to go straight into the axe mode here. If you notice, he's already stunned. That's how much damage you're going to be doing stun if you can hit him in the face. We only have one file left, and I really want to nail another KO, so I'm just going to start out with the XA and hit him straight off. We didn't quite get the KO, but we will get another one here, I promise. Oh, we already killed him. So that's pretty much how you string them together. I mean, your basic combos that you're going to be doing is going to be charging in, doing this charge attack, perhaps even mixing it with some shield thrusts, and so forth. Now, if you were to go online and watch Monster Hunter 4 videos, which is the Japanese release that you guys did not get, that's pretty much all there was to the charge blade. When I say that's all there was, I mean that's quite a bit. But in Monster Hunter 4G and for Ultimate, they added yet another mechanic on top of all of this, which greatly changes the dynamic yet again. But I still think that it's important to understand just the basic blade mode, the axe mode, and using those two interchangeably before you go into this one. So what this involves is not charging your blade, but charging your shield. So let's go see how that's done. So the basic idea behind this principle is that instead of charging energy into your blade, you're going to convey it right into your shield. So let's go ahead and do that. So the way to charge a shield is to press R during that finisher attack for the axe. So let's go ahead and charge up here. Okay. Let's go ahead and charge that energy. And then when we're going into the finisher, if you remember, one of the faster ways to do it without wasting a file is to just hit XA when you're in axe mode. Then hit R in the middle of the animation, right now. You'll cancel out of it, and you'll notice that all that energy went straight into your shield. Now it's glowing red. So once you charge your shield, you'll notice that it glows red, and this has several effects. One is if you hold R to guard, your guarding capabilities are actually stronger. They're actually more like that of a lance now, so it actually allows for a more defensive playing style if you want to. The other thing it does for blade mode is that if you remember there was that little ammo-like effect during the shield thrust, it now does a mini elemental first. So it does KO or elemental damage without even costing a file. It's about half of a normal one, but still, it's a nice addition. But the really big thing about having a boosted shield is that, of course, that shield is used as the axe head. So as you would expect, all the axe moves are more powerful. We're talking a massive 20% increase. So every single attack, including the standard one, including the A button attacks, are all more powerful. So when you're in boost mode, it only lasts so long. So each file that you charge when you go into the charge mode here adds up 30 seconds of boost time. We've had 5 files, so that was 150 seconds. And after that happens, it starts to glow yellow, and then eventually it will disappear. You can stock up to 300 seconds worth of files to have a long boost mode. Which I highly recommend. Again, it gives you better guarding, more powerful axe attacks, and of course it has the one really big thing which I've been holding off on showing you until now, which is a brand new finisher. So if you do your normal finishing move, it now does this huge axe attack. It's very big. Now if you don't have any files, it doesn't really do anything that special, but if you have files, what it does is, instead of just using those files, it also takes out the charge from your shield all in one massive strike. So now that we have some Phials, I'll show you how that works. The more Phials you have, the more powerful it's going to be. So this does massive damage, but it also knocks you out of boost mode, so you're going to want to get back in there as soon as you can. Now there is a way to cancel out of that huge attack if you don't want to like unload everything. I'm going to put a link in the description on the bottom here, but basically it depends on your controller setup type, but you're going to be wanting to pull back in relation to your hunter and jam on X during the animation, and he'll switch to the normal finisher attack, which is also my favorite. So if you do this, hit back and X, and he'll jack it and go back to a normal attack. So if that wasn't enough complexity, Capcom actually added in one final advanced technique that you can use or you can just choose to ignore if you'd like, called guard points. That means that at a certain point in your animation, your hunter will automatically guard an attack that comes at him. So the best way to describe it is that there's two guard points. There's one at the very start of the morphed animation to axe, like here. Just the first few frames. And this is because your shield is put out in front of you. And the second one is after the morph to sword or the round slash. You'll notice we put the shield in front of you. Here, that will actually auto guard as well. So for most people this just means that every now and then you're going to get lucky and you're going to auto guard. And that's cool. But for people who want to go pretty deep into it, there's actually a cool mechanic that goes in it as well. One thing to note here is that although R and X or pressing special on the touchpad will do a morph attack in which you put the shield in front of you, if you hold R first and hit X, you will not have a guard point because your hunter actually puts the shield behind them before they do the animation. So no guard point on that. So let's go see what this means. We'll see if the Jaggy cooperates. Jaggy is not a very aggressive monster, so it can be kind of hard to demo this. So there we go. So I just really quickly hit R and X right before he hit me, and you notice I did a guard. Now you may be asking yourself, why don't I just hold R? Wouldn't that be a heck of a lot easier? And the answer would be yes. The reason why a guard point matters though is that if you notice all that knockback that we got, the answer is that the guarding capabilities of the charge blade is actually that of a great sword, which is basically a little bit better than a sword and shield, but not quite as good as a lance. So there are certain attacks that will do damage to you or give you really big knockback if you just hit R. But if you do a guard point, you actually go up one level in guarding capabilities. It's almost like having the armor skill guard +1 added. So it actually lets you guard some attacks with less knockback than you normally would have, but of course it does come at that high risk. Because of this, I think Capcom realized a lot of people weren't going to utilize the guard points because they were risky, they were a little hard to time out, and there was less reward than you would expect. Here's the second one I was talking about here. There we go. There's that second guard point. Again, high risk and low reward actually, so not a lot of people used it. However, now in Monster Hunter 4U, which you guys got, in 4G, so if you have a charged shield, not only do you get guard +1, so now I have the guarding capabilities of a lance. If I do a guard point, it becomes a lance with guard +1, so this is a really strong guard. And if you notice what happens when you're in the boost mode, is that there's a free Phial burst. It's the same one that you get if you do the shield thrust. So after time, like these can really add up, and if you're going up against a monster like Diablos who charges at you from long away, it's actually really easy to charge out your morph. The best way that people do for a monster like Diablos is that if he's charging at you, do an X attack first, and then use that window of delay to time out the morph. Just makes it easier. Again, it's not exactly something you could just guard, and it'd be fine as well. But if you get really used to guard points, it's a way to be a little bit more aggressive than normal. So in the defense of guard points and when you might want to do them, I thought I would quick show you what happens when you're up against a monster like Diablos. Now for Diablos, you could just as easily guard, and it wouldn't be a big deal. But when he does his charge attack, those little half file bursts, they really do add up. See if we can mount him here. This would be nice. If you notice, we're using the charge point on the scream, which is always nice. Just another use for that guard point, I guess, right? Okay, now you'll notice when he charges, we can time out it really easily. Just wait for the delay. Now. Charge up here. Ouch. Dude, calm down. And he ain't calming down. Okay. Diablos over here. And if you notice, it only took that many hits to KO him, so it adds up, guys. People will often ask me which armor skills or which armor I recommend for Charge Blade, and I think one of the reasons why I think it's such a good weapon for people who are new to the game or just starting out in low rank is that it has pretty much zero armor skill dependencies. And what I mean by that is, like, if you take a weapon like the Great Sword or the bow, in which there's a charging mechanic, then being able to charge faster is going to change the game incredibly. So they have a focus on wanting to get certain armor skills. Charge Blade sort of has everything right out of the box. It's got great guard, especially if you boost your shield first. Because it has guard and guard points, you really don't need evasion plus skills, which is nice. It doesn't have a charging mechanic like the bow or Great Sword, so it doesn't need those. And it's just a really good all-around weapon. So I would say that you should put your focus on sharpness +1 if you're in high rank. Hone Blade if you're going into Gene rank. Those skills basically just add an extra level of sharpness to your weapon, for most weapons at least. And that lets you do more optimal damage for a longer period of time. And in that same vein, Razor Sharp, which makes your sharpness go down by half, is also a really good skill to have as well, because you do hit quite a bit with the Charge Blade if you're doing the charge attack or if you're doing shield thrusts. So those can add up quite a bit. So anything that increases your sharpness is generally a good skill to have. And I'm also a really big fan of Challenger +2. And what that skill is if a monster is enraged, it will give you attack up extra L, which is huge. And a small affinity increase as well. And I just find that with Charge Blade that it plays really good when a monster gets aggressive with you. Like, you're generally right up in its face. You can guard, you can use guard points, so I generally find that the extra power boost between the Challenger +2 and the boosted shield results in a monster flinching quite a bit. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a freestyle weapon, so I would say go with whatever you like to do. Obviously, you don't want to be sheathing your weapon too much, so where in Monster Hunter 4, before we had this charged shield mechanic, something like Punish Draw would have been a nice moveset for the Charge Blade. I think now it's better to just get used to not putting your weapon away so much. Unless the monster is really far away and you just want to put it away and run up to it. Like, that makes sense. Mind's Eye, I guess, is good if you're a big fan of Akantor weapons. They have incredibly high attack, but they have pretty bad sharpness, so Mind's Eye would make it so you don't bounce off any monsters, which is nice. And that's about it. So, I don't know. Find your thing, have fun with it, and happy hunting.